Hey! So I thought I'd do a more in-depth video about my pregnancy. Woohoo! And even if it's not necessarily weight loss or health related, at least I'll be able to look back on this later. So I am 23 weeks today, which is just crazy to me because I still feel like I just found out. It's definitely flown by, but at the same time it just feels incredibly like it's so far away before I get to meet my little girl, or at least that's what the sonogram says. I'm still going to pick out a backup boy name just in case, to catch you up on some of the symptoms that I had while I was pregnant, or have had while I was pregnant. Let's see, my first trimester was terrible. Because my first trimester was pretty bad because I had severe morning sickness. I mean, not the kind like that Kate Middleton apparently gets, where she gets hospitalized every time she's pregnant, but it was pretty bad. I couldn't eat. I had no appetite. I actually still have no appetite. But yeah, it's if I ate anything more than like 2 bites at a time, I was sick to my stomach. And in the middle of all this, I was learning new things at work and riding around on power equipment, all the while trying not to throw up and feeling just terrible. It was the end of summer. I found out at the beginning of August that I was pregnant. I pretty much knew right off the bat that I was pregnant. Ironically, I had convinced myself that I was just, you know, having really bad PMS because I've had similar symptoms of early pregnancy that are really just bad PMS. And I had ordered a bunch of the cheap, you dip it in the urine sticks, you know, this is the stuff that you can get at the dollar store. I bought a whole bunch of them from Amazon. They showed up, and lo and behold, I was actually pregnant. Yes, first 3 months, the first 12 to 14 weeks, I was consistently nauseous. I had major food aversions. Looking at certain foods, thinking about certain foods was just terrible. The gag reflex was just over the top and made eating very interesting because, you know, yes, the morning sickness was extreme and I hated every moment of it, and when it finally went away, I did not miss it. As I mentioned, I actually still have no appetite, and what I mean by that is that I can feel hungry. I can feel in my stomach that I need to put food in it, but I cannot think of anything that sounds good to eat. When I look at food that is available, it mostly just makes me gag, which makes feeding myself very interesting because, you know, I'm used to doing food prep and eating the same thing all the time and not caring. And this week for work lunches, I had made a carne asada stew chili thing, and it smelled great, it tasted great the first day, and then after that I couldn't stand it. More than once we would be heating up lunch and Chico would hand it to me and I would tell him that I couldn't, you know, eat it because it looked and smelled like dog shit to me. Poor guy. He's trying his best to make sure I'm good though. Which is not very kind on our pocketbooks either, because everything that I have remotely craved, you know, I should not be allowed to go shopping by myself for food, because I keep buying random things that sound really good at the time and either I don't eat them or I eat way too much of it in one sitting. Such as I purchased 2 different cereals, holiday cereals, that sounded great. I still haven't eaten them, mostly because I hate cereal and I have no idea why I thought I would actually eat that cereal. But on the same note, I'm trying to still, although it's not as good as last time, I'm trying to follow the same rule I gave myself when I was pregnant with my son, which is I have to crave it for several days, like 3 or 4 days before I'll indulge in it, because otherwise I'm just eating a ton of crap that's not actually good for me. And, you know, I know that sometimes there's certain cravings you have and it means you need something else in your diet. You know, point in fact, if you really want a ton of chocolate, you actually are low on iron, etc. You may have noticed that I'm in a new place. I did mention that in my last video. We bought a house. We closed in the beginning of October and we moved in the middle of October because we were extremely busy. Because of the move, I got very bad about taking my vitamins. The only thing that I have actually gotten back to taking regularly is my probiotics and my magnesium. But before that, I was actually taking my usual of fish oil and vitamin C for stress and depression. I was taking probiotics, magnesium already just because, oh yes, magnesium is also good for keeping you regular. And I remember with my first pregnancy, I had a lot of trouble staying regular. And in the end, at the very end, I was very miserable. Look, you can see where I usually have my Fitbit on, but it's in the car. That's with the husband. That's at work, working overtime. I had been on a regular multivitamin, and then I switched over to the Juice Plus vitamins just because I know somebody who was selling it and I'd been interested in trying it. I haven't actually been taking that for a while only because, like I said, when we moved, I got bad about taking my vitamins. I do still intend on going back to actually taking vitamins on a regular basis because it's a good idea. I do intend on starting to take my vitamins again now that life has calmed down and I can get into a better routine again. As it is, you know, I put them where I could see them, hoping that it would help me remember to take them, and I just look at them and go, oh, I should take that, and that's about it. As far as exercise goes, I actually haven't done regular exercise like I should in a while. I stopped doing regular exercise pretty much as soon as I got my job almost a year and a half ago because I knew that it would be putting too much on my body. And then once I got used to it, I meant to get back into it, but I just didn't. I had gotten out of the habit, and you know, it's the hardest part of exercising on a regular basis is to actually get, and of course getting back into the habit is hard to do. Last year, I know I managed to get some run training in, and I think I did at the beginning of this year too. This year has flown by for me even without being pregnant because I still feel like it's September, not December. So I've been trying to include some yoga in my life right now, and but actually training for anything or doing any kind of exercise has been just a huge pain in the butt. And trying to even do something like yoga at home, prenatal yoga at home, has not, it hasn't been going great. I've only managed to get some yoga in. Towards the beginning of my pregnancy though, I did have a bunch of runs, Disney runs that I did. At the beginning of September, I did a half marathon weekend for Run Disney. It was the Disneyland half marathon weekend. I did the 10K with a friend who had never done a Disney run before, and I had gotten her a bib so that so that she could do it, and because I was paying forward. My father says I can't call it paying it forward because but I think it's paying it forward. Last year, God, was it only last year? Last year somebody bought me a bib so that I could do a 10K, and they just said that whenever I was able to, you know, do it for somebody else to go ahead and do that, and that's how I could repay their kindness. So this year, because we have been in a much better financial position, I went ahead and paid it forward and invited a friend that I knew enjoyed running to go ahead and do that. I did finish the 10K, but it was at the beginning of September, at which point I was, I think, 4 weeks pregnant, maybe 6. I can't remember how weeks and pregnancy and all that work. But, you know, again, with the severe nausea and the sleep depth and the fact that it was one of the hottest weekends for doing a run. It was something like, you know, 80 degrees before the sun was up with the high humidity, especially for a Californian. I did finish, although I didn't get to finish with my friend. I sent her on so she could finish, and she had a good time, and she thought it was awesome that I was still out there, you know, running when I felt so miserable, but I really wanted to participate with her, and I really wanted to participate in my challenge weekend because I had also signed up for a half marathon on the next day, because the 10K is on Saturday and the half marathon is on Sunday. Because of the heat, I actually ended up taking myself out of the race at about 3.5 miles on Sunday because it was humid, it was warm, and I couldn't tell the difference between just morning sickness and whether or not I was already getting heat exhausted, and I did not want a chance doing myself or the baby any harm by going, oh no, it's just morning sickness, and then finding out that, you know, I was having heat exhaustion. So I took myself out. I was disappointed, but I was only a little disappointed because I knew I was doing it for my health and not because I was just wimping out, because taking care of the baby is pretty damn important. So after that, I mean, yes, I was still disappointed because I'd been looking forward to the challenge, and to beginning of November I flew out to Florida, and my sister and I participated in the Wine and Dine half marathon. My sister finished. I did not. I got swept at mile 3. I was bitterly disappointed in myself, even though I knew it was my own fault for not training enough, for, you know, knowing that, you know, I'm pushing a body that's not used to doing this kind of activity while pregnant. I have been running for almost 3 years now, but I've never done it pregnant, and I can work 10-12 hour days at work, which is still very physical, but it's extremely different than running and or walking, because I was doing a lot of power walking too, because my chest felt super heavy, and I've been experiencing something that, I don't know if it's just a byproduct of my weight or not, but in the last year when I've been running, I've noticed a pain right about here. Like, once I start running and walking, and once I start breathing more heavily, it feels like a fist is going up into my lungs right under where the rib cage spreads. And I don't know if that's like some sort of hernia or something else, or if it's just the excess weight pulling and causing things to shift in not good ways. But it makes it harder to breathe, or at least it feels harder to breathe to me. I still had a good time when I went out to Florida. It was really nice, and it was a mini vacation. And then the following weekend I participated in the Superheroes half marathon weekend at Disney, where I finished my 10K, and again, I did that with a friend, but she paid for her own, but it was still her first, and we did it together. And she actually had her own injuries, so she did not feel held back by my lack of oomph. And the Sunday I participated in the half marathon, but I got swept again. And I thought maybe I should just stop running because it had stopped becoming fun, but apparently that feeling has passed, because I want to do another race so bad, and I don't want to keep trying while I'm pregnant because it's gotten too uncomfortable, which makes me sad, because I know some women are able to run their entire pregnancy, but I can tell it's not happening for me. So as far as exercise, it's pretty much all I've done is doing the races and or staying active at work. In the half marathon weekend, I got swept at 9.5 miles. I think they may have let me keep trying, but when they found out I was pregnant, they were way too concerned that I was a higher risk for injury or passing out or anything, so they asked me to stop. So I did. I think I would have been more disappointed in myself if I hadn't gone out and tried. And I'm really hoping that in a couple years, depending on life, money, and whatnot, that I can try again for a Disney half marathon and actually finish it. And I'm really hoping to start doing other things because I have been on light duty for a week now at work. Not necessarily because I feel unable to do what it is that I do, but because of the environment at work and what we actually do, I cannot just start taking it more slowly and then go on light duty. It's kind of an all or nothing with how work has to be done. As it is, I'd already started slowing down, and I was noticing within the past 3 weeks that I'm getting tired a little more easily, which is to be expected, but it was just the, okay, time to listen and slow down. But at work, slow down means go on complete light duty. So now that I'm on lighter duty at work, I'm gonna try to make sure to get more activity here at home where I can control it, but I can still remain active, because I remained active with my first pregnancy and I want to remain active in this pregnancy because it's just who I am. I am not the, well, the lazy part of me is, but I'm not really content to actually be the person to just lay around all day doing nothing. It always sounds so nice, and then whenever I try it, I end up finding something to do because I just can't stand it. And on the subject of health and etc., everything has been completely normal so far as I know. Blood pressure's great. My resting heart rate has only gone up so much, or a little bit, but it's not a bad thing. It's actually quite normal, but I still keep an eye on it just because, you know, I'm crazy that way. I haven't gained any weight yet, which, according to stuff I've been reading, is I should start gaining weight right now, but I'm just not, and I'm not doing that on purpose. I think the lack of appetite has not been helping with the, you know, lack of weight gain. There seems to be back and forth about whether or not I should be gaining or shouldn't be gaining, because my body weight puts me into the obese class, because I've read from some doctors that, you know, you still need to gain, what is it, 10 to 20 pounds even if you're obese, and some are saying you shouldn't gain more than 15 if you're obese. And I'm trying not to worry about it in either case. I'm trying to focus on just making sure that I'm, you know, fed, and that I'm still trying to make sure to take care of myself, because taking care of myself means, you know, taking care of Poppy. And that's the nickname, it's not the actual name. Poppy seems to be growing just like she should. She's incredibly active, just like her brother was. I've got her kicking me and flipping and doing all sorts of things all day long, and she's been doing this for over a month now, and it just gets crazier and crazier to me how much I feel it more and more. And then realizing I'm only halfway through. I still have weeks of this, months of this, and my midwife is absolutely delighted at how much I like to stay active. She actually was not terribly thrilled with the idea of putting me on light duty at work, but I told her it's not that, you know, suddenly I feel like I can't do this or feel incapable. It's, you know, how things have to happen at my work. Other random things that I've been experiencing is something that I think I read called rhinitis or something, but it's basically pregnancy related sinus issues. And since I'm prone to sinus issues anyways, I hadn't really thought of it until I read about it, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. We've also been experiencing some high winds in the last week, which has also been irritating my sinuses. I've actually, you know, my nose looks a little red. It's raw right in here. I've actually scratched myself with a hard booger because of the amount I've been blowing my nose and how much drainage I've been experiencing. And I'm sure you've heard me sniffing this entire video. So I've run out of notes and things to update you guys on. I will make a video next when I think of it. And yeah.